What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Tony, and today we are going to be going over my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2022. Now, before we get started, I know, but Tony, it's already February. What about all the cinematic masterpieces that came out in January of 2022? To which I say, what are you talking about?
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Everybody knows there are no good movies that come out in January. That is like the dumping ground for every major studio. So needless to say, there wasn't really anything that came out in January or thus far in February that was anywhere near my list of top 10 most anticipated movies. So we don't really have to worry about that, but we are getting closer and closer to some of them coming out. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of what is on my radar and what I think should be on yours. 2022 is going to be an incredible year for film, for movies, for going to the theater. And if you are as stoked for it as I am, let's jump in, give the video a like to let me know that you're out here, and we will start with my number 10 movie. Number 10 is a movie that some of us have been waiting for over 30 years for, and that is the follow-up to the 1986 classic Top Gun. Of course, I use the term classic very loosely, but Top Gun was an incredibly fun movie by Tony Scott, who has since passed away, and they finally, 30 some odd years later, are coming out with a sequel. The movie is set to release on May 27th and is being directed by Joseph Kosinski, who you might know from Oblivion or Tron Legacy. Again, it is a direct sequel to the 1986 Top Gun movie. This one is called Top Gun Maverick, and it follows Tom Cruise's character Maverick 30 years later. He is still kind of being a hotshot pilot, and now he's being called back to train a special team of pilots to go on a very, very dangerous mission. And one of the people on the team is his old buddy Goose's kid, played by Miles Teller. In addition to Tom Cruise and Miles Teller, you also have Val Kilmer returning to reprise his role, as well as a few names you may recognize. There's Ed Harris, Jennifer Connelly, and John Hamm. So this movie was supposed to come out about 3 years ago, but it got pushed back because good old Tom Cruise wanted to work on some of the flying sequences himself. As we all know, he is completely insane and wanted to pilot a lot of these planes himself and do a lot of the barrel rolls and things like that. Then, of course, the old Coronora hit us and it was pushed back even further than we anticipated. But Top Gun is one of my guilty pleasures, and I cannot wait to see what crazy Tom Cruise does in this next one. Next up, number 9 is a movie that may not be on a lot of people's radar. It's a movie called The Northmen. It's set to come out on April 22nd and is directed by Robert Eggers or Eggers? I forget how to pronounce his last name. He's the guy who directed The Witch and The Lighthouse, so some really solid movies under his belt. The Northmen takes place at the turn of the 10th century, and it is essentially Hamlet, but with Vikings. You have the king, who is played by Alexander Skarsgård. His father is murdered by his uncle, and he then goes on a mission to get revenge for his father's death. In addition to Alexander Skarsgård, you have, and I've got the list here, Nicole Kidman, Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, Bjork, Willem Dafoe, and I do not know how to pronounce this man's name, and I hope that he never gets mad at me for that. The guy who played the Mountain in Game of Thrones. I think it's Hafthor Bjornsson. So great cast, a lot of really big actors and actresses in this. And of course, with Hamlet, it's a story we all know. It's The Lion King. It is something that I feel like would be kind of hard to get wrong. So I'm excited to see this. I like the director's style, and this movie just looks like it's going to be badass. Next up, number 8 is going to be Avatar 2. Now, this movie is set to be released on December 16th. Of course, who knows when this will actually be released? This movie has been in the works forever. It is, of course, being directed by James Cameron, who has directed the prior Avatar, Titanic, a bunch of other movies. Oddly enough, here's a little fun fact for you. James Cameron has not directed another feature film that is not called Avatar for the past 25 years. The last feature film that he directed was Titanic, that came out in 1997. Now, of course, people are going to have mixed feelings about that. James Cameron is an incredible talent, and for him to be completely devoted to one series for so long, and for so long into the future, I think he's got 3 or 4 more sequels that he's going to be working on for the next X number of years. It can be a little upsetting that he hasn't stretched into doing anything else, but the way I see it, if he is this dedicated to this concept and to this world that he's building, I'm here for it. The movie is bringing in a lot of the cast from the first movie, so you have Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana, as well as Steven Stephen Lang reprising their roles. You also have Vin Diesel, Michelle Yeoh, who I love, and who may be in more than one of the movies on my list today. There's also Jermaine Clement, Kate Winslet, and Sigourney Weaver, all going to be in this movie. Of course, Sigourney Weaver, I believe, was in the first one. It's been so long since I've seen it. Here's the thing. Avatar is not going to have the most ridiculous and interesting story, but it's spectacle. It's beautiful. So here's hoping it actually comes out this year. And now let's move on to number 7. Number 7 is going to be the first of several comic book movies that are on this list. Again, this is my list. This is my personal taste. So I am a big comic book fan. If you're not, that's totally cool. I'm just letting you know what I'm looking forward to. And at number 7, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor: Love and Thunder is set to come out July 8th and is, of course, directed by Taika Waititi, who directed Thor: Ragnarok. He also directed What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, and also Jojo Rabbit, which was a great movie. Reprising their roles are Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, Natalie Portman, a few others. You also have several of the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy that are supposed to be in this movie, and Christian Bale has a role, which I am super eager to see. I'm going to be honest with you. This movie would be much higher up on my list, except for one particular thing. I love Taika Waititi. I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. I absolutely adored Thor Ragnarok, so this has a lot of hype going into it. But the one thing I can't really get behind, and I hate to say it, I don't like Natalie Portman as this character. Don't get me wrong. I love Natalie Portman. She's a great actress. She's been in so many movies and has done an incredible job in almost all of them. But there's just something about the world of Thor and maybe just the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I don't see her fitting in. And from what I can tell, this movie is going to revolve around her character a fair bit. So I'll try to reserve judgment. I'm a little concerned about that. But overall, Thor is fantastic. Taika Waititi, Chris Hemsworth are fantastic. Tessa Thompson, fantastic. Christian Bale, super excited for that. So let's see what happens with Thor: Love and Thunder. Next up at number 6 is a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie is set to come out on March 25th and is directed by the duo known as the Daniels. That is Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, I think is how you pronounce his last name. They got their start doing music videos. You'd probably know of one of theirs that was a massive hit, and that is the music video for Turn Down for What. Since then, they've gotten into movies and have directed a movie that I'm familiar with called Swiss Army Men. As far as who's in it, well, I mentioned before, Michelle Yeoh would be making more than one appearance. She is the main character, it seems, in this movie. You also have Jamie Lee Curtis, Jenny Slate, and an actor that I know from when he was a young kid back in the day from The Goonies and from Indiana Jones, Jonathan Ke Quan, who I absolutely love. This movie is being distributed by A24, and as I've mentioned in some of my videos before, A24 is just nonstop with the hits. They always seem to back these movies that are very creative and unique, but also usually fun to watch. This movie is being advertised as an interdimensional action film. I don't know a ton about what the story is actually going to involve, but just from watching the trailers, it looks like a lot of fun, a lot of really interesting scenes and action. I am pretty excited for this movie, and it's also the first of 3 movies on my list that involve multiple dimensions. Of course, the other 2 are going to be somewhere in my top 5, but where? Let's find out. Before we get into the top 5, if I could ask you to please give the video a like if you are enjoying this, and also I want to let you know I am making a big push for my first 100 subscribers on YouTube. Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, your friendly neighborhood video editing Tony. That's right, this is the video editing setup. I got my coffee. Just wanted to jump in real quick to let you guys know we have hit 100 subscribers. That was the goal that I was going to shoot for in this video. So I want to thank you guys so much for making that happen. And I just want to let you know I appreciate it. And here's onward to 200. So thanks again. Now back to the video. And now, the top 5. Coming in at number 5, and it would be higher if not for extenuating circumstances, but that is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Black Panther is set to release on November 11th and is being directed once again by Ryan Coogler, who you would know from the prior Black Panther movie. He also directed Creed and a movie that really kind of put him on the map, Fruitvale Station, which was a very, very good movie. Now, of course, unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman is not going to be reprising his role as Black Panther. You do have a lot of the remaining cast from the first movie. You have Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera, Martin Freeman, Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, Angela Angela Bassett. So it still has a fantastic cast. I am really curious to see what they're going to do with the story at this point. How do you have a Black Panther movie without Black Panther? I don't know. I loved the first movie. I loved Chadwick Boseman even more, and I really hope that they will do him justice. That said, with Ryan Coogler and with what Marvel's been doing, I can't imagine they would be moving forward unless they really believed in what they had here. So I am remaining positive. It's unfortunate that we don't have Chadwick, but I am hoping that this movie will be good. Next up at number 4 is our second of 3 multiple dimension movies, and that is Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness. Now, this movie is set to be released on May 6th and is directed by Sam Raimi. Now, Sam Raimi has not directed a comic book movie in quite some time, but you may know him from directing the first 3 SpiderMan movies. Of course, the third one we don't talk about too much anymore, but he did direct the first 2, which were great movies. He also directed the Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness. He is a really good director, especially I think with movies that have kind of a weird, almost sci-fi, even horror kind of twist to it with Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. I'm really curious to see what he brings to this. The movie is going to have, of course, your usual cast of Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. You have Benedict Wong. You also have Chiwetel Ejiofor. And in this movie, Elizabeth Olsen as the Scarlet Witch. This movie is going to be the next big, pivotal, universe-changing movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I have no doubt about that. And things are about to get weird. From what I've seen about the story that's involved in this movie, I think it would really benefit you to watch both the Loki series that was on Disney Plus as well as WandaVision. I liked the Loki series a bit more. WandaVision kind of started off slow, but I think ultimately where those 2 shows end up is going to have a big impact on this movie. So definitely check those out when you have a chance. And now, moving on to number 3, yet another multiple universe movie. That is SpiderMan Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. This movie is set to come out on October 7th. It's still written by Lord and Miller, but it's being directed by a couple other directors that I wasn't super familiar with. You have Joaquim Dos Santos, who is primarily an animated television director. He worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, also The Legend of Korra. He also worked on Justice League Unlimited and a bunch of other animated series over the years. You also have Kemp Powers aiding him in directing. He was the co-director on the movie Soul. And then there's a third director that I wasn't very familiar with. I think he's primarily an animator, but is probably just dipping his toes into directing, it seems. But overall, an interesting choice of directors. They all seem to be very talented, though, so I'm curious to see what they do with this movie. As far as the cast, of course, you have Shameik Moore reprising his role as Miles Morales. There's also Haley Steinfeld, who is Spider-Gwen. You have Jake Johnson playing the older, kind of beat-down, beer gut-having Peter Parker, Issa Rae as Spider-Woman, and Oscar Isaac as one of my favorite Spider-Men, Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. Now, I'll tell you right now, Into the Spider-Verse, to this day, might be my favorite Spider-Man movie ever. This most recent Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland was really good, so that's kind of got me second-guessing myself. But when this movie came out, it blew me away. I was so stoked to see it. And with Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, being a major part of this sequel, dude, I am stoked. Growing up, he was my guy. He had a short animated series. I loved him in the comics. I'm just so excited to see what they do bringing all of these characters together in this movie. So yeah, I think it's safe to say my hopes are high. All right, it's getting real. We're getting down to the top 2 here. This was really tough to decide between these 2 movies as far as which one would be in my number 1 spot, but the more I thought about it, the more obvious it became to me. So coming in at number 2 is The Batman. The Batman is set to release on March 4th, and it is directed by Matt Reeves, who you might know from the Planet of the Apes movies. He directed Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. He also directed Let Me In, as well as Cloverfield back in the day. So he is a really good director who has a way of building worlds, really, when you consider what he did with Cloverfield and what he did with the Planet of the Apes series. As far as who is in the movie, ooh boy, we got a whole cast here. We have Robert Pattinson playing the Batman / Bruce Wayne. Now, I will say a lot of people, I feel like, gave him some flack when he was cast as Batman. I think a part of that is because we all enjoyed Ben Affleck as much as we did, so it was sad to see him go. But I think Robert Pattinson is a really good actor. I think he does brooding and angry very well, and I'm stoked to see what he does with this character. In addition to him, You have Zoe Kravitz playing Catwoman, Paul Dano as the Riddler, Jeffrey Wright is playing Commissioner Gordon. You also have Andy Serkis as Alfred, which I think is great casting, and Colin Farrell as the Penguin, which is wild. So yeah, overall, I think the casting is really good. I will say, if I'm giving it one critique, I'm not the biggest Zoe Kravitz fan. In what I've seen her in, she just hasn't really moved me, so I'm not sure how she is going to portray Catwoman. I feel like Catwoman has really been kind of almost a background character in the last couple iterations, so I'm hoping she could really bring something to the character that excites the audience and interests us in her and her story. But overall, I love Batman. He is one of my top 3 favorite comic book characters of all time, and I can't wait to see what they do with him in this one. Now, coming in at number 1, my most anticipated movie of 2022, a year that is absolutely stacked with movies, and that movie is going to be Fantastic Beasts: The Secret of Dumbledore. I don't know if you can tell, in the background over here, I've got my Hufflepuff poster. That's right, Hufflepuff for life, baby. Let's go. But I absolutely love all of the Harry Potter movies. I can't get enough. I've been to Harry Potter World a bunch of times. I've watched the movies on repeat over and over again. I saw their anniversary special that they just had. Hold on, 1 second. Wait right there. I literally have Newt Scamander's wand. That's right. That is Newt's wand that I have, that I purchased at Universal. So to say I'm a fan of Harry Potter and to say I'm a fan of Newt Scamander and the Fantastic Beasts series would be an understatement. Now, this movie is set to come out on April 15th. It is directed, of course, by David Yates. If you don't know that name, he's only the guy that has directed every Harry Potter movie since The Order of the Phoenix. So yeah, I think he kind of knows what he's doing at this point. The movie is going to be starring Eddie Redmayne, of course, as my boy, Newt. You have Jude Law and Ezra Miller reprising their roles and taking over for Johnny Depp. I won't get into all that, but taking over for him is Mads Mikkelsen, who is an incredible actor and another person that I absolutely love. As I mentioned before, I just cannot get enough of the Harry Potter universe. I want all of the movies. I want a TV series. I want a virtual reality world that I can live in where I can just Wingardium Leviosa all up in this mother. I want all of the Harry Potter, so I am so stoked for this movie. And you better believe I will be doing a review day 1 as soon as it comes out. Midnight showing. Your boy is there. But that's it. That is my top 10. Those are the top 10 movies of 2022 that I am so excited to see. There were many more. My list was close to 20, I think, when I first wrote them all down. But these are the cream of the crop. These are the ones that I am most excited to see. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments below. What movies are you the most excited for in 2022? Do you agree or disagree with some of the movies I had on my list? Let me know in the comments below. That's what this is all about. Me sharing my thoughts on movies with you, and also you sharing back with me. Again, if you are into these kind of videos, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, if you just want to give the video a like, I would appreciate that as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Be good.